Is your team not performing well? Is morale low and turnover high? Are you falling further behind the competition? I'm here to help. I'm your host, Shani, and this is the Leadership Show, where business strategy and culture finally meet, and we make the long-awaited shift from rhetoric to results. I promise I'm not your typical boring leadership consultant, and I will help you get your shift together. Let's do this. Hello, Leadershifters, and welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Show with yours truly, Shani. I am joining you today with a glass of wine because our guest is a leader from ABC Fine Liquor and Spirits. Welcome, Charlie Bales, to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and hey, it's a good excuse to have a glass of wine with lunch, right?
Absolutely, as we were saying, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, or why not have a one martini lunch or a one glass of wine lunch? So, folks, this is going to be a super fun show because we're going to learn from Charlie what it's like to be fourth generation in a family-owned business, ABC, which is very well known to me in Florida because you guys have, 130 some stores here. You're ubiquitous. Everybody knows ABC Liquor. You guys were founded in 1936 by, is it your great grandfather?
Actually, just one great grandfather.
Okay.
Yep.
And you do a number of things for the business. As well as having a very active life outside the business. You are a self-professed CrossFit junkie, and as I understand it, also an entrepreneur in your own right, developing your own brand of collagen and protein supplements, which I will ask you about towards the end of the podcast. So we've got a lot of ground to cover. So first of all, let's do a cheers to having you on the podcast.
Cheers. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. So what's it like to be fourth generation coming into work in a family-owned business? Like, was it not even a question when you were coming out of the University of Florida that you would go to work for ABC, or was your path a little bit different?
It's a really good question. I think that I look at the third generation, which is my dad, my uncle, and their siblings. I look at them with such respect and admiration that you always want to do what your role models do. Mm-hmm. So I always thought I want to go work in the family business. I want to contribute to all the lives of our family members, just like I'm watching Chaz, my dad, and Jess, and all the other leaders do. So, I think I always assumed that I would. And if you asked a lot of my friends, they this isn't even a question. They would just say, yeah, he's going to go work in the family business.
So were you the guy that had to source all the alcohol for fraternity parties?
Well, actually, I was the guy that was playing couple sports in college and didn't have any free time whatsoever. And if people told me that they needed booze, I'd be like, do not go to ABC. They check IDs and you will get in trouble.
Good answer.
Right. But to answer your question, I would say, I've always wanted to kind of do what my dad does. He's the ultimate role model for me. So why wouldn't I want to do that? And I have a business degree. I have my MBA. So I guess if I said that I wanted to be a social psychologist, you probably shouldn't believe me.
Right. Well, good. One of the things that I'm keen to share with leadershifters, or have you share with leadershifters, is how you and the company buckled down and did things like when COVID hit, when the lockdown hit, because as we were talking pre-show, what was interesting to me was you said, well, it actually wasn't really a big shift. It's just the way we do business all the time with integrity. So talk a little bit about, sort of what changes you did make and why you say that's actually, it wasn't a shift.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. So our mission statement is that we make everyday celebrations better for our team members and guests. And team members is before guests for a reason. Because if we would never ask our team members to do something that we're not going to do ourselves. We look at our team members as part of our family.
Okay.
And so when, tragedy or crisis or anything like that hits, all we have to do is look at our mission statement and go, all right, what do we need to do to protect our team? And then right below that mission statement are our three core values, which are not just fancy words written on a wall that mean absolutely nothing. Our three core values are respect, inspire, and empower. And we actually get pretty deep on all those words and what exactly they mean, and they do drive our behavior. But from the simplest level, the 50,000-foot level of what those three words mean, treat everybody with respect. It's pretty simple. My 5-year-old, my 7-year-old know the difference between right and wrong.
Yes.
If you hang around our corporate office long enough, you're going to hear a lot of people say, just do the right thing. You'll say it at a meeting, you'll hear it on a phone call, just do the right thing. Well, what does that mean? Just be respectful. Respect your team members, respect our vendors, respect our guests, but most importantly, respect yourself. And if you're violating that, then you're probably not making the right decision. So then the other two, inspire and empower, go right along with that your actions should inspire your fellow teammates. They should inspire our guests. They should inspire, your family, your kids, yourself, because you're being empowered by the company to do what's right and to just be the best version of yourself. We give so much freedom and autonomy to so much of our team members. We treat them like adults, not just like numbers.
Right. Imagine that.
So that's some good background to now answer your question. When the COVID crisis first started, how did we respond? I remember sitting in a room with the executive team that I serve on the executive committee, and we just, we started thinking like, what do we need to do? And we all started thinking, well, if our kids were working in the store, so if my 7-year-old daughter was standing behind a cash register when there's this weird viral pandemic that we have no idea what it is happening, what do I want her to have? So we had PPE everywhere before people knew what PPE, including myself, stood for.
That's great. Before it ran out of stock.
Right. So we sell alcohol. So we had a lot of distributors create sanitizers and cleaning agents that we were using well before, the Lysol apocalypse came that we all ran out. And another great example, we have our own maintenance department. So that means that we build a lot of stuff. We built those shields that protect our team members from the guest in front of them. We had those out before people knew what a shield was.
Right.
And then I think that one of the really cool things that we did almost immediately, we cut store hours. We opened up later. We closed earlier for two reasons. We needed to clean, but also we wanted people to go home. We go take care of your families. We'll cut the work day and sacrifice, potential sales just to do the right thing. We were actually rewarded for that. As I think looking back in hindsight, that doesn't surprise me because just when you do the right thing, the right result tends to happen. So all of those decisions were not hard. And we made them very quickly. And that's also the beauty of being this privately held family-owned company that we can make a decision, and then very quickly it can impact 1,600 people in a day.
Right.
Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. So, in essence, yes, you made some changes, but they were changes you would have made in any situation to do right by your employees and your customers and your vendors and everything. And I love that. And it's refreshing to hear a company that has a mission statement and values that they actually use as the North Star, as decision-making tools, because that's what they're for. Yet so many companies, they are just words on a wall, and they don't mean anything, and they don't drive decision-making, and they don't drive behaviors. They just take up space, and they look pretty, and maybe they don't even look pretty. But so, kudos to you and your family for actually living your values and modeling those in good times and bad times. For better or for worse, you married your values. I love it.
Right?
So I am curious, in a family-owned business, what happens when you disagree? Because the dynamics, the interpersonal relationships are, just to generalize, they go a bit deeper than the average interpersonal relationships in a professional environment. So does that help? Is that a barrier? How do you handle crisis or difficult conversations?
It's such a good question, and it's one that I get asked a lot, because I think that when people hear that ABC is fourth generation and still family owned, they're like, how? Because people just have such a negative image of multiple generation family owned businesses because they never work. They always get sold or there's disagreements. And of course, you're always going to hear in the press of the son that's suing the brother and all those crazy things.
Right.
So why does it work for ABC? My answer is actually very simple. Because the foundation of our relationship as family, because there's actually two families that own the company. So the foundation with all the family members in the two families is the company. The company is more important than anybody else. It's more important than me. It's more important than my brother-in-law. It's more important than my cousin, than my dad. The company is always most important. And I say that to you because I have learned that lesson firsthand, that thinking, as a 26-year-old cocky, that I'm, better than everything, and all the things that people could say about that illustration I just gave, they're probably all accurate. But I was not even like slapped and said, no, you're wrong. I was given the time to learn the right way that's not why we're in business. We're not in business because you think we're good at X. We're in business because it's our duty to serve all of our family and to protect the main entity. So I mean, it's a huge credit to the third generation that they allowed a fourth generation person like myself to learn that firsthand, as opposed to just reading it in a book. Okay, I think this is how it goes. When you actually experience it, that's where real learning comes. So I can tell you that we're successful because the foundation of all of our relationships, even when we all disagree and there are those confronting moments, they're a lot easier to get over in time because, again, the foundation of everything is bigger than Charlie or bigger than somebody else. It's the company. And there's a lot of families that are depending on that company to succeed. So push your pride aside and do the right thing for all those other people. Where I think you see in other family businesses that might not be around anymore, that foundation was compromised somehow.
Yeah. Push the pride aside. It's good advice for anyone in any context, family or not. I find that that's what gets in the way of so much greatness. In fact, people ask me a lot, like, what do you see as leaders' biggest obstacles to success? And I say, oh, it's actually the biggest obstacle is a very tiny 3-letter word, and it's called ego.
It's so true. And it's what am I trying to say? The hard thing to swallow is that in America, especially, you're taught all about individualism. You're
Mhm.
taught to do it yourself, be the American dream, where that's so like just wrong. It can work. I know people that are examples of that, but I think that, I mean, I'm a big stat guy. I think your percentage chances of succeeding when you ask for help and you lean on mentors and
Mhm.
coaches and, the older generation that's been there and done that, are a lot better than just trying to do it yourself because of your ego. It's like, oh man, you really are going up a big hill that I just don't know if it's worth dying on.
Yeah, for sure. And I can almost envision several generations of you all sitting in rooms sharing ideas, and sure, the older generations have the wisdom of some of the business mechanics and so forth, and then the newer generations are maybe more in touch with today's style of marketing and the younger consumers and all that sort of stuff. And when you can work together instead of judging each other and thinking like, oh, they're out of touch, or they're not serious enough, and and instead take everybody's great ideas, that's the right way to work.
Yeah, and the older generation, I keep saying the third generation, because they're the ones that are leading the company right now.
Hmm.
Um, they deserve a ton of credit for allowing the fourth generation to find the seat that they want to be in, as opposed to placing them in a seat that they didn't want to. And that is going even further than the family members. That's going just to the executive team, the director level, the managers, that
Okay.
we've got so many people that are in the right seats that empowerment is so much easier to give to somebody when
Hmm.
they want to be in that seat. Their only goal is to make you proud. You being the not me, but like being the company.
Sure.
Um, and there's just so much credit due to the third generation for allowing that process to happen naturally.
Yeah. So actually, that begs the question, how does succession planning work at ABC, and what advice do you have for people listening and watching?
Um, so it works. It's very transparent, and
Mm.
it's not always been that way. We didn't really have a bunch of succession planning a couple of years ago. So it's been a new thing that the fourth generation has brought into the business, and the third generation has taken it with open arms.
Good. Okay.
So that's part of the respect that the cross generations have with each other. That, like, yes, you're the pros. You made mention earlier of the mechanics of the business, but maybe the up and coming generation has a new idea for something. You didn't need succession planning years ago. Now you absolutely do, because it's so complicated what certain jobs do that it just takes years to learn how to do them. So I would say our process is extremely well defined and transparent in today's world, where even 3 or 4 years ago it really wasn't. Where you didn't want to talk about, oh, this person's retiring, because that's a very awkward conversation. Where now it's not really at all. We're going to celebrate the fact that this person has given us so many years of great service, and instead of letting them deteriorate towards the end, we're going to bring in the person that they get to help train and mold, and it's part of their legacy.
Right.
So, hopefully, those last couple of sentences give a good picture of what exactly succession planning is happening in our company.
Great. I love that it's proactive, because again, I see so many instances in all sorts of organizations where it's it's either an afterthought, or it's and reactive, like, oh crap, so and so is retiring, or so and so resigned unexpectedly, and there's a scramble to figure out how they're going to fill that person's shoes. And that it should never be like that. We should always be grooming people. I say to my executive coaching clients all the time, leaders create new leaders, not, not create, the leaders don't create situations where if they go, they leave the situation in upheaval, right? A good leader, when they leave, whether it's with notice or without notice, leaves the job in a way that is sustainable, with people who know what's going on and talent that's been developed. And it's so hard, again, because of ego, for people to get that. They want to think like, oh, they're screwed without me. And it's like, no, actually, if they're going to do well without you, that's a sign that you've done a great job.
Exactly. But that's even a super hard idea to accept, that, oh wait, you mean I'm going to be a good leader if I just train people and don't really do anything and they don't need me? Yeah, actually that is. But even for me, that was hard to accept. I certainly accept it now. And if you just do enough homework and you research and study a lot of the greats, they all say the same thing. So maybe there's validity to this. But
Right.
yeah, it's just so true.
So does this conversation provide a good on-ramp to the shift in your own personal thinking that you wanted to talk about, that you've sort of really, that started to really take shape right before COVID?
Yeah, I've made mention to it in some of the other questions that we've talked about, and just that I was not, I didn't have the mindset a couple years ago that I have now. And sure, I could come on this podcast and say I've learned how to do this. I'm awesome. I figured it out, and really that has nothing to do with it. I had a lot of help, a lot of really good coaching, mentors, a lot of peers, a lot of people under me who wanted to help, and who did help. And I'll also say that it's almost a cheat code to have a supportive, in my situation, wife, but spouse, husband, whoever,
Yep.
to have that person at home, who also, like, out of love and respect, tells you, like, hey babe, stop being stubborn and see the real thing. Oh, okay. She might have said that 25 times before I believed it, but hey, at least on number 26, I did.
Exactly. And next time you'll hear it in 24 times.
Hopefully.
Cheers to the mentors and the coaches and the supportive spouses and the coworkers, and never need an excuse to take a sip of wine.
Absolutely. And it's so, and I wish that we talked about that more, that it's not just the president that is doing everything and getting everything done. There are so many people behind that individual. And in my case, it came from every direction. It was my cousins, my two brother-in-laws who married my sisters, that are both in the business, that I talk to all the time, they probably don't know how much of mentors they are to me. My uncles, my other cousins from the other family, and then people who are actually on my teams and under me. It's all of that combined effort that helps turn a kid with potential into a transformational leader. And so I didn't do it myself. I had a lot of help, and I am fine admitting that, because that's the truth.
Yeah, good stuff. So tell us a little bit about this new business that you're developing with collagen and protein. And I'm guessing it's an outgrowth of your interest in CrossFit and health. And, so it's like have your, wine or your liquor at night, but in the morning have your yummy protein filled collagen drink.
Right. So what I do day to day for ABC, I worked in the stores for 10 years, and now I oversee human resources, which we call team member services.
Great, love it.
I know it's we're we are that company that has the funny name for HR, and I'm super proud of it. And if somebody doesn't like it, it's kind of like, well, you just told me a lot about you, so thank you.
Yep.
And I also oversee our internal distribution, so our warehouse, and we send about 40% of the products to our stores ourselves.
Oh.
And then my cousin handles the other side. He's a lot smarter than me, so he can handle the bigger operation. So why I bring that up is that I've always been passionate about people and health. So it's just natural that I gravitated towards HR once I kind of found my way. And we're a self-insured medical plan, so I spend a lot of my time in that world too. And I have 3 kids now, and the first one is my only daughter. Her name's Vivian. She's 7.5 now, and I mean she's an unbelievable kid and in really good health. But it wasn't always that way. Her first couple years in life, she was sick a lot, and I got sick. My wife and I we got sick of just following doctor's orders with this drug, this prescription, this, that, the other.
God, especially with an infant and a toddler, it's scary.
Oh yeah, to be told some of the things that we were told by pulmonologists and this doctor, it's like, what? So, I'm a millennial. I know how to use Google, so I did. and found I've probably read 40 or 50 books written by doctors who have crossed the bridge between medical doctor and naturopathic doctor, because they believe as food being medicine.
100%.
And just saw so many same things that were being said by all these doctors, and made a lot of those changes with Vivian, and now her 2 little brothers have benefited from those changes. And I decided I was getting my MBA at the time, and so just had that, like, I know that the supplement world is a lot like the wine world. Maybe I could just try this as a passion project, because I just love talking about health. I just like helping people discover health. So I did it, and we created a custom collagen protein blend, which was, I'd say, one of the big pieces of the pie of health, of figuring out on my own and with Vivian that we were missing. It's a different protein than eating, a chicken breast that's made of muscle meat. It has a different process in your body. It helps support different things, and most people are deficient in it extremely. So we created this little company, and it's fun. It's so
And the
easy
products
to talk
for
about health.
any people of all ages, or is it specifically targeted to children?
No, any and all.
Okay.
It's our demographics all over the place. My whole team at CB Supplements is full of either current or former athletes. So it's huge for joints and recovery and sleep. But we have a majority of our customers are women who are looking to help their hair, skin, and nails, which, men like that too, me including. So I love that. But it's also a huge digestive support supplement. To just help with overall health, because most of your immune system lives in your digestive system.
Absolutely.
So let's beef up that function of your body, make it stronger, and then just your overall health starts to improve. And that's why I can tell you that Vivian was a sick kid, but now she's a super healthy kid, because we just made her stronger. And we did it without drugs and all that stuff. It's really just through food and lifestyle changes.
It's so true. I watch a lot of those movies periodically, and one that I hadn't seen before, the movies about food, and one that I hadn't seen that came out like 10 years ago, I just watched over the weekend, is called Fork Over Knife, or Forks Over Knives. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but a lot of those movies, as I'm sure you've seen, and the books are the same. They talk, yes, about the health benefits, and they spend a lot of time focusing on like how livestock is treated. And so part of what turns you off about eating meat and eggs and all that is seeing like the disgusting conditions that those poor animals are raised in. But this movie focused just on the health and the science. And it really is, it's indisputable that food is our best medicine. And it's so frustrating to see how many people, like, they know that, yet they eat like shit, they don't treat their bodies well, and are just happy to go on any cocktail of medication that their doctors prescribed. And I don't want to get off on this like soapbox tangent of our medical costs in this country, but we're doing it to ourselves.
Oh yeah, and that's part of my day job, is overseeing a very large medical plan, which is it's crazy. Our system is not it's very imperfect. We're doing everything we can to try to make it better within our company. That's the benefit of being a self-insured platform as opposed to fully insured, that I could talk for hours about. So I totally agree with you that that's why I started a company that is taking parts of the animal that we don't really use, because we'll just kill the cow and take the muscle meat and get rid of everything else. We'll take the skin and bones and we'll make broth and we'll distill it down into a powder and turn it into a collagen powder, because really we used to eat the whole animal. When you slaughtered an animal, it was almost a religious experience that then you would thank them for giving them the nourishment that you're going to have. And then you use every part of that animal, where we just don't really do that anymore. And that has massive impact on gut health and overall health, because we're missing out on such a big part of the nutrition of eating, another animal, another mammal or fish or anything. So that's really what our product is. It's high quality. We're using grass-fed and pasture-raised cows and free-range chickens and wild-caught fish, and we want to do it the right way. Our product has a certification. It's NSF certified for sport, which means like an Olympic athlete can take it. It is so clean. Because if I'm going to give this stuff to my 5-year-old son, I would expect you as a consumer to trust that I trust the product.
Right.
And that has a huge cost to it. It's probably why we're not making money. But it's fine. We're in it for the long run. And like I said, this is my passion project. That I love what I do for ABC. I love all my jobs. I get to interact with such cool people all day and solve big problems. But I also get to do it on the side with this fun company, and just be on a podcast with you talking about how a big company like ABC deals with COVID, and then we turn right and we're talking about gut health. It's just fun.
I love it. Well, thanks for sharing that. I can't wait to try the product.
Absolutely.
So let's turn back for the last few minutes to ABC. And what are the big trends in wine and spirits these days that would interest people? Because I know that I am myself a wine connoisseur, and a lot of my listeners are also, let's just say, enjoy their wine and their spirits.
It's an awesome question, and I'm not going to pretend like I know the right answer, because there's so many good things coming, but I can talk about a couple. People are looking to bring that really good drink that they had at a bar into their house, and that's kind of what COVID has done. That if you're used to spending X on a craft cocktail, okay, how do I do it at my house? So you're going to see some innovation on the product side with getting that into the retail segment. So that way it's easier to make this ginger infused Manhattan with, a tobacco top. And even on the wine side, it's the same. These growers of wine are making unbelievable product, and they're doing super cool things to age it. There's just a lot of innovation, and we've got a team at ABC that when you put these 8 to 10 men and women together in a room, you've probably got more wine knowledge than any room in the world, just with their experience and their certifications and the fact that they can cover their eyes, taste something and go, yeah, this is Mondavi's 97 Pinot Noir. And you're like, what? So like, that's the team that's buying the product. And most of them are in the field. So you might even run into them in a store and have no clue that you don't even know who you're talking to.
Right.
And
there's some master sommelier.
And they'll help you find your bottle of wine. So, you know, we're looking to improve the customer experience in our stores through extremely high quality products. And we've got a really good team that says no to about 95% of the products that they see. And then the other 5% are what you're seeing in our stores.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So a couple other questions that, you know, again, are not as much business questions as they are just interest questions. What country or geography do you think, for maybe a red and a white, is the most underappreciated right now? So, you know, they've got excellent varietals and not overpriced.
So I have to preface that this is Charlie's opinion. However, I think Washington State most people just, when they think of wine from the United States, what do we think? We think California, we think Napa Valley, which is fantastic. Love California. Napa's unbelievable. But Washington State is the best kept secret that I can't believe has not exploded more in the past decade. Washington State Reds are just soft, velvety, easy to drink. I mean, Chateau Ste. Michelle has figured it out. Everybody knows that name, but
yes,
but that's it. Who else? You know, it's all these little vineyards that no one's heard of that are making outstanding Pinot Gris on the white side, reds, red blends. I mean, you said the same thing about Oregon Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris. But everybody's kind of found out about that.
I love Oregon Pinot Noir. I will, if there's a choice of an Oregon or a California Pinot Noir, I always go with the Oregon, just as a matter of habit anymore.
Right, and we just
need to California.
We just need to go one more state out.
I still go for your cabs though.
Well, it's like rightfully so. California cab are some of the best in the world, but just Washington State's great. I think that I think they're fantastic. And maybe I'll just stop there before I get myself in too much trouble. But I think that Washington State is where I'm spending a lot of my dollars in our stores.
Okay, interesting to know. Thank you for that recommendation. I'm going to check them out because I actually have an ABC less than a mile from my house, which is so exciting.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
Well, any last words of wisdom for our listeners and watchers today?
Sure. I'll throw another curveball.
Okay.
Because this is how I end a lot of conversations because I love getting into more in-depth. I'm not a good small talker, so I like getting into in-depth conversations like this. And usually if they'll ask me that question, like, give me one piece of advice. Work out, train your body. I don't care if you do CrossFit, do whatever. Just find a way to build muscle and work out, and you'll probably be happy with the results. And it'll impact every facet of your life.
That's right. That's right. I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was a really fun episode. And folks, I hope you learned a few things, not just about wine and the fact that Washington State wine is underappreciated and undervalued, but also I hope you learned something about why it shouldn't take a pandemic to, focus on your people, that should be how you do business all the time. The way Charlie has described it, it has been working at ABC, and that you have a mission and a set of values that are really resonant. and that really are the basis for how you do business and how you make decisions. So how can people reach you if they have questions or if they want to check out your supplement?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn, Charlie Bales. That's probably the best way. Yep. Although I don't think either of the third or the fifth or the second are on LinkedIn. So I might be the only one. And I have a Twitter handle that we can put in the show notes too. And by the Collogen Company, it's this very genius name that I'm not a marketing guy, so of course I came up with the name. It's called CB Supplements, so Charlie Bales Supplements, and I'm almost ashamed that I call it that. So it's just cbsupplements.com, or you can just Google CB Supplements, will come up, and I answer our support email, so it's just I just love customer service too. So shoot me an email, and then you'll probably get a response from me.
Awesome. All right, folks, thanks for joining us today. See you next time.
Thank you.